This is a discussion in the book The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East, in which someone asked Jesus who and what God really is. And this is his answer. And then Jesus spoke and said, I believe that I understand the motive of the question you would like to clear up in your mind. It is the many conflicting thoughts and ideas that are puzzling or disturbing the world today without reference to the origin of the word. God is the principle behind everything that exists today. The principle behind a thing is spirit, and spirit is omnipotent, omnipresent, and omnipotent. God is the one mind that is both the direct and the directing cause of all the good that we see about us. God is the source of all the true love that holds or binds all forms together. God is impersonal principle. God is never personal except as he becomes to each individual a personal loving father-mother. To the individual, he can be a personal loving all-giving father-mother. God never becomes a great being located somewhere in the skies in a place called heaven, where he has a throne which he sits upon and judges people after they die. For God is the life itself, and that life never dies. That is but a misconception brought about by man's ignorant thinking, just as so many malformations have been brought about, and you see them in the world around you. God is not a judge or a king who can intrude his presence upon you or bring you before the bar of justice. God is a loving, all-giving father-mother who, when you approach, puts out his arms and enfolds you. It does not matter who or what you are or what you have been. You are his child just the same as when you seek him with a true heart and a purpose. If you are the prodigal son who has turned his face from the Father's house, and you are weary of the husk of life that you are feeding to the swine, you can again turn your face to the Father's house and be certain of a loving welcome. The feast ever awaits you there. The table is always spread, and when you do return, there will not be a reproach from a brother that has returned before you. God's love is like a pure spring that gushes from a mountain. At its source it is pure, but as it flows on its course, it becomes clouded and polluted until it enters the ocean, so impure it does not even resemble that which emerged from the source. As it enters the ocean, it begins to drop the mud and slime to the bottom, and again raises to the surface as a part of the glad, free ocean, from which it, again, can be taken up to refresh the spring. You can see and talk with God at any time, just as you can with father, mother, brother, or friend. Indeed, he is far closer than any mortal can be. God is far dearer and truer than any friend. God is never wrought up, nor angry, nor cast down. God never destroys, nor hurts, nor hinders one of his children or creatures or creations. If God did these things, he would not be God. The God that judges, destroys, or withholds any good thing from his children or creatures or creations is but a God that is conjured up by man's ignorant thinking, and you need not fear that God unless you wish to do so. For the true God stretches forth his hand and says, all that I have is yours. When one of your poets said that God is closer than breathing and nearer than hands or feet, he was inspired by God. All are inspired by God when that inspiration is for the good or the right, and all can be inspired by God at all times if they only will. When I said, I am the Christ, the only begotten of God, I did not declare this for myself alone, for had I done this, I would not have become the Christ. I say definitely that in order to bring forth the Christ, I, as well as all others, must declare it, then must live the life, and the Christ must appear. You may declare the Christ all you will, and if you do not live the life, the Christ will never appear. Just think, dear friends, if all would declare the Christ, then live the life for 1 year or 5 years, what an awakening there would be. The possibilities cannot be imagined. That was the vision that I saw, dear ones. Can you not place yourselves where I stood and see as I saw? Why do you surround me with the murk and the mire of superstition? Why do you not lift your eyes and minds and thoughts above these and see with a clear vision? Then you would see that there are no miracles, no mysteries, no pain, no imperfection, no inharmony, and no death, except that which man has made. When I said, I have overcome death, I knew whereof I spoke. But it took the crucifixion to show these dear ones. There are a great many of us joined together to help the whole world, and this is our life work. There have been times when it has taken our combined energies to ward off the evil thoughts of doubt and disbelief and superstition that have nearly engulfed mankind. You may call them evil forces if you wish. We know that they are evil only as man makes them so. But now we see the light growing brighter and brighter as the dear ones throw off the bonds. The throwing off of these bonds may for a time sink mankind into materiality, but even so it is a step nearer the goal, for materiality does not hold one as superstitious and myth and mystery hold one. When I stepped upon the waters that day, do you think that I cast my eyes downward into the great depths, the material substance? No, I fastened my eyes steadfastly on God power that transcends any power of the deep. The moment I did this, the water became as firm as a rock, and I could walk upon it in perfect safety. Jesus stopped talking for a moment, and one of our party asked, While we are talking, does it not hinder you from going right on with your work? Jesus answered and said, You cannot hinder one of our friends here for a moment, and I believe I am included as one of them. Someone spoke and said, You are our brother. Then Jesus' face lighted up with a smile, and he said, Thank you, I've always named you brothers. One of the party then turned and asked Jesus, Can all bring forth the Christ? He answered, Yes, there is but one end of accomplishment. Man came forth from God, and he must return to God. That which from the heavens descended must again ascend into heaven. The history of the Christ did not begin with my birth, neither did it end with the crucifixion. The Christ was when God created the first man in his own image and likeness. The Christ and that man are one. All men and that man are one. As God was his Father, so is he the Father of all men, and all are God's children. As the child has the quality of the parents, so the Christ is in every child. For many years the child lived and realized his Christhood, his oneness with God, through the Christ in himself. Then began the history of the Christ, and you can trace this history back to man's beginning. That the Christ means more than the man Jesus goes without contradiction. Had I not perceived this, I could not have brought forth the Christ. To me, this is the pearl without price, the old wine in new bottles, the truth which many others have brought forth and thus have fulfilled the ideals that I have fulfilled and proved. For more than 50 years after that day on the cross, I taught and lived with my disciples, and many of those I loved dearly. In those days we gathered at a quiet place outside Judea. There we were free from the prying eyes of superstition. There many acquired the great gifts, and they accomplished a great work. Then, seeing that, by withdrawing for a time, I would be able to reach and help all, I withdrew. Besides, they were depending upon me instead of upon themselves. And in order to make them self-reliant, it was necessary for me to withdraw from them. If they had lived in close association with me, then could they not find me again if they desired to do so. The cross was in the beginning the symbol of the greatest joy the world ever knew. The foundation of the cross is the place where man first trod the earth. Therefore, the mark that symbolizes the dawn of a celestial day here on earth. If you will trace it back, you will find that the cross disappears entirely, and that it is the man standing in the attitude of devotion, standing in space with arms upraised in blessing, sending out his gifts to humanity,